This is a subject that I have been avoiding for the absolute longest. And at a certain point, I realized, you know what? You can't keep sugarcoating things. You can't keep telling half truths, right? And it wasn't like I was going out of my way not to tell the whole truth and nothing but truth, so help me God. But there was still an aspect of me that, that didn't want to trigger anybody, that didn't want to make anybody feel any type of way. But I realized that my work, my job, my place in this universe is simple. That is to tell the truth. Because I have come to an understanding that when you accept truth, that truth has the potential to set you free. If you first accept that truth and then move in alignment with that truth. And so what I want to talk about today is the subject of cheating, otherwise known as infidelity. Now, this is an interesting subject because it's something that happens in the shadows, right? Oftentimes, it's something that's, usually not commonplace, depending on like your circle. I know it's a little different in 2024 because we just, this is like the most ratchet year I've ever experienced where people are just out with everything, right? It's actually incredible. Not in a good way, incredible, but people are more out there with these sorts of conversations about themselves. Now, I'll be honest with you. As far as I'm concerned, or I'm considered, I cheated one time in my entire life, and I was 18, close to 19 years old. It was in my senior year of high school, and I immediately broke the relationship off the next day because I felt too much guilt. And from that day forward, I said, I never want to do this again. I never want to feel this feeling. Even though it wasn't completely based off of my character, my integrity per se, it was based off of guilt. But I carried that momentum forward into the rest of my life. And ever since then, I have not been a cheater. Now, do I believe that once a cheater, always a cheater? The odds are yes. Why is that? Because, habits tend to perpetuate themselves. It's as simple as that. So, getting to the point at hand is there ever a justification for cheating? Now, I remember getting a comment on one of the what are they? Reels on Instagram, right? Short form content on Instagram. And this was an interesting comment. There was a woman who was basically going in, telling her entire story about how, she was forced to cheat on her husband and, she's not loved in this relationship. So it's really incredible to me how people can just air themselves out to like complete strangers because they're so deeply triggered, or maybe there's, an aspect that's just trying to like release this burden from them, but still be justified in it and hopefully get somebody who agrees with them. So nevertheless, this woman was talking about how, she had cheated on her husband and she had an affair, but, it was simply because he wasn't loving her the way that she needed to be loved and blah, blah, blah. And this isn't a new argument. I've heard this before. I've heard people say this, the reason I did it is because I wasn't being loved. Okay. The reason I did it is again, no reasoning is going to pass for me. No reasoning. Absolutely none. It doesn't matter what you tell me about the situation. There is no justification. You're in the wrong. But nevertheless, woman continued to go on and I responded, right? Because I used to respond to those type of messages back then and go back and forth and try to convince people, which I've just let go of at this point. But nevertheless, she was at this place where she just could not let go of the idea that she was justified in her infidelity. And it was mind-boggling. And I thought to myself, my God, is this real? Is this trolling or what is it? And I realized the more she was going in, sometimes she just double, triple message because she was just going on a rant, right? Justifying these things. And finally I asked the question, does he know? And, she had kids. She talked, her whole story was on there. She talked about kids and his, and I said does he know? And she said, well, no. And I thought to myself, that's interesting. So your justification is I'm not being loved enough. He's not showing up in this way. So I'm just gonna have an affair, but he doesn't know, right? If you're justified, then you're not embarrassed by it. Then that means you have no problem with it. So it should be out in the open. And, this is one of the foundational elements of this thing. It's the reason it's done in the dark is because you're embarrassed by it. The reason it's done in the dark is because you feel a sense of shame and guilt around it. And there's a healthy level of shame there, right? I'm not an advocate of shame as an entire idea, but I am an advocate of a little bit of shame when you're doing something that is morally bankrupt. Right? When you know that this is betrayal to a covenant that you created amongst yourselves, you did that. You said yes to them vows. And you're the one who can make a decision to step out of that, out of that agreement per se. You can write a new contract that says we are no longer together and live in a different way. But the reason why you're not talking to a stranger and a whole lot of strangers about something that, is so deeply, quote unquote intimate, like something so dark, is because you feel a deep sense of guilt and shame, and you're looking for somebody to affirm you. And so, I was a little pettier back then. So I basically took a screenshot of one of the pictures and I put on my story. I said, I covered the name and I said, who agrees with this? Because it was one of the posts where she was justifying cheating if you're not being, loved right or whatever it is, right? And I was surprised not by the 90 something percent of people who say yes, but like there was like 4 or 5% of people, and you can see who voted what. And I was like, damn, I wouldn't, whoa, even to have like 5, 7, 2% of people able to justify this showed me that there is a level of justification for moral bankruptcy, for a lack of integrity and character, for dishonesty, for a lack of self-respect and respect for others. And it blew my mind. This is a black and white subject for me, okay? No ebony and ivory, but this is a real life black and white subject. It is always going to be, yes, it's wrong. Yes, it's wrong. Now, am I saying that you cannot transcend and transform and move different and make different? Absolutely not. There are people in prison right now, right? There are people in prison who have changed their entire life. They are no longer the person they used to be, but they're still in prison. They're still suffering the consequences of the decision they made. So, some folk, oh man, I did wrong. You got brothers like Shaq, man, if only I could, if only I didn't do what I did to my wife, if only I didn't, then I would still have my family, and then I became lonely. It's like, yeah, brother, because you made that decision. And that decision had consequences. Now, he's not the only one. There's a multitude of individuals like that. A multitude, unfortunately. But, it's like, okay, because I realize that, these are the ways that I've wronged you, surely I must get you back. No, that's not a guarantee. That's not a guarantee. If I fumble the bag on my queen, if I fumble the bag, she needs to leave immediately, period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. There's no question about it. And if you're conflicted internally, but you don't understand my situation. My situation's different. And, I had this and this. Look, you can argue until the cows come home. It's still going to stand the very same. It is dead ass wrong to make that type of promise to somebody and then to go against that. I respect you more if you cut the relationship off simply because you're feeling some type of attraction to somebody. I feel infinitely more respect for you if you're somebody who will make a decision based off of the impulse to say, I'm just going to leave the relationship, as opposed to, because you want your cake and you want to eat it too, and you want to smush it all over the other person's face. And that's not right. And again, I will also say to the individual who's in a relationship with this person, if you're staying in that relationship dynamic, I know you got your reasons, right? You got we got the babies, we got the kids, we got the house, we got the this, we got the that. They're, maybe they're paying this much of the bills or they're paying all of the bills. You have your own reason, but I'm going to tell you right now, all you are communicating to that other individual as well as your own children is that it's okay to be disrespected at the most fundamental level. It's okay to have no respect on your relationship. And we hear crazy stories, especially in the United States. Like, you can't go by without hearing a crazy story somewhere. You be in a coffee shop, you be here, be passing by, rooms, might watching TV, watching the news. And it's like, you hear these stories of, oh, this athlete got 4 more baby mamas this year, and this one's got 3 more baby mamas this week. And this one, I'm like, what are we doing? And then this one is, I'm like, and it's normalized. And we continue to perpetuate it. And I realized, it's because we're a culture that has normalized dysfunction. We're a culture that has normalized trauma and the byproducts of that trauma. Okay, that's what we're dealing with. Okay. Then it starts to make sense. Oh, that woman is an individual who is dysfunctional within herself. And so, of course, she's going to have this, dysfunctional sort of relationship. And, to me, it's funny when we have situations like that and somebody's immediate response is, well, what's he doing? It's the same. Again, I'm not anti-man, anti-woman. I'm for everybody. I want us all to have healthy relationship dynamics and to build a strong foundation within our households. Let's raise these babies right, okay? But, some folks will be talking about, but what was he doing? Oh, but what was she doing though? First of all, we don't know because he's not in my comment section right now talking about how he's cheating on his wife, right? So I don't know. I genuinely do not know. All I know is that this individual who's showing up is showing themselves as somebody who can justify something that is unjustifiable. There is no two ways around it. Yes, there's a lot of gray area and a lot of different things. But in this situation, you can leave. In this situation, you can make a different decision to not do what you're doing. You know, I saw, oh my goodness, it's getting crazy out here. The level of evasion of self-responsibility is just getting out of damn pocket right now. It's as high as inflation, damn it. I seen a graphic. It was like, you know, one of those ads, right? It was just a graphic and it said hypertextuality, replace the T with an S. Hypertextuality is not a byproduct of a lack of discipline or something. It said it is a symptom of ADHD. And I'm like, okay, hold the hell up. Hold the hell up. So now we're pinning infidelity on ADHD, right? Now it's okay, so now cheating is going to be a diagnosis. Oh, okay. No, it's not a personal responsibility. Yeah, you're right. It has nothing to do with the individual. You're right. Oh, it's not just y'all trying to, medicate folks for the simple point of profit. Oh, no, it's not that, right? It's not you trying to enable behaviors that are going to lead to more dysfunction, that then lead to more depressed people that then buy more stuff that they don't need. It's not that, right? No. Of course, it can't be that. Surely it must be exactly what you guys say, that an individual who cannot keep it in their pants is the individual who is obviously suffering from some sort of, no. The thing that anybody is suffering from who is able to justify that in their quote-unquote right mind is the individual who is perpetuating cycles of trauma and self-sabotage. I know this for a fact. Many men, if you know, you know. Many men who end up in these cheating situations, it's from a place of self-sabotage, of insecurity. You oftentimes see like you're in a beautiful relationship, everything is working out, and then all of a sudden, there's aspects of them that actually, it's like an individual who is afraid to be happy, right? That's a real phenomenon. It's like the fear of success. There's an idea, a concept by a brother by the name of Gay Hendricks, and it's called the upper limit problem, which is essentially we have like this thermostat where we have a certain temperature, quote unquote, that we regulate at. So, let's say financially, you are only comfortable making 60,000. If you were to go to 80, 70,000, like overnight, you would find a way to get back to 60,000 unless you changed your consciousness. You literally had to change your level of self-awareness, in essence, the way in which you perceive yourself. So that being said, in relationships, it's the exact same phenomenon. There are people who once now they're in a healthy relationship will find ways to sabotage it because they're used to the toxicity and the chaos. That's the conditioning. That's the program. That's their upper limit. So somebody's now married and their story kicks in, boom, and they look for a way to sabotage. But even if that is the case, we are still not victims to this, but instead we are the ones who choose to perpetuate it or to change the narrative because it serves nobody. Like, I'm not here preaching you need to be in a relationship. I believe in relationships and in healthy, functional relationships and conscious relationships in the most straightforward sense, which is just aware, right? Those are thinking as opposed to having the world think for them. I believe in those type of relationships, absolutely. However, if you cannot be that in a relationship, don't be in a relationship. Simple as that. You're better off just not being in one. You're better off just not making this false commitment. If you don't know if you can or cannot be, just don't do it. Just don't do it. Period. There is no justification for it. And that word is final for me now, and it'll be final for me, till the end of my days. I'm curious to get y'all opinion on this one. I know this is one that, ruffles a lot of feathers and riles people up, and I'm real curious. I know there's going to be somebody in there with their story of why they're justified, just like everything else, People will damn near justify, taking somebody's life, And then there'll be something about it where it, well, it just wasn't my, okay, no, I mean, okay, I get it. It was what it was, self-defense, but you still did it. So, here's the consequences. So you still did it. Okay,
I used to be afraid of the dark, a place unknown like a hardening heart. I used to see my life in the bar. Now the kids unchained, every shackle is lost. 2 steps in the moonlight, 2 step in the daytime. You just know when it feel right. You got a feeling the time's not. See you through those shades that I just threw on. Through my lenses, you just can't do no wrong. I fell in love with myself again. I fell in love with myself. I fell in love with the sunshine. I fell in love with the light. I fell in love with the full moon.